Now, as I've mentioned in previous videos, my primary focus is getting leaner and fat loss. So that means that nutrition is going to take priority over training. However, the training still plays a pretty significant role in what I'm doing, because if I just stop training, then that's going to significantly decrease my energy output, which means I'll have to adjust my nutrition. So when I say that nutrition is the priority, I still want to put a pretty good effort into my training. It's the training's kind of there, and I just have to keep doing it. And it's not just the primary focus, it's a secondary focus, but I still have to keep doing it. But pretty much going to be focusing on nutrition to get the majority of results. And then with that, I also wanted to touch on how often I need to adjust my nutrition. And that's going to really vary depending on the results. Sometimes I could go like a month or two and not have to adjust anything. And that's generally what you want. You don't want to have to be constantly changing your nutrition week to week. Sometimes when people will check in and be like, oh, what do you need me to change? And be like, well, nothing. And that's a good thing, because if the plan you're on is actually working and getting you results, you kind of want to keep riding it out. You don't want to just cut calories just because you want to make changes each week. You want to strategically implement changes only dependent on the outcome. So for me, a good rule of thumb is that if I know I'm getting leaner, the weight is coming down on the scales, or I can visually see progress, or I have another quantitative source telling me that my body fat is actually getting lower, like a DEXA scan or an in-body scan or something along those lines. And I'm like, great, this is working exactly how I want it to work. I don't need to adjust my nutrition. However, when you hit plateaus, that's when you might need to change something as well. So you might need to lower the amount of calories that you're eating. So for example, if I'm somewhere around, averaging 2,700, which is pretty close to the average I've been having the last few weeks, eventually I'm going to plateau on that, and I might have to go down maybe to 2,500, 2,400. Just drop it that little bit as well. The important thing to remember here is also that when you lower calories, your energy output tends to decrease. And the more extreme that you lower your calories, the less energy output there's going to be. And this is for a number of reasons. There's some potential evidence to suggest that it may be effective. Metabolic rate lowers and that sort of thing, or certainly as you lose body weight, you're going to lower your metabolic rate because you're not as heavy, you don't have as much to move around. Other things in that, you're not eating as much food, so there's not as much energy to digest and utilize that food as well. Sometimes training intensity can drop as well, particularly if you see someone on a really restricted calorie diet. Their strength tends to come down. They don't train as hard. Even though mentally they can be really present, the performance output's not as high, so energy output's going to be lower as well. It's very evident when I'm coaching a lot of people getting ready for competitions, doing posing coaching, or just for bodybuilding. The last couple of weeks out before their show, they're walking around really droopy, dragging their feet. Now, if you were to map the total energy output across the day, it would be way lower than someone who's like quite active, like moving their hands around, they're very present. And that tends to happen even on a subconscious level. So as you diet harder, you tend to lower the output. So you've got this constant movement of each side of the equation that you need to account for. Making those adjustments can actually come down to it's I'd say like a little bit of an art form, but I guess it's also just like experience. If you had a lot of experience with this, you can start to recognize patterns and see what's going to happen there as well. And it's not always as clear cut as you might think, because sometimes dropping calories lower doesn't necessarily put you in a greater deficit. And I'm gonna go over this in a bit more detail in the next video, but I'm just gonna leave that there so you can have a think about why that might be.